In this video, we're going to create a sewer decal. So let's open up that image. Now, a little side note that this decal might be better off as a static mesh. You would have a lot more control over how it renders in your level, and you would have actual physical dimensions if you used a static mesh instead of a decal. But to provide you with a wide range of examples and options of how to create decals, we will use this texture and create it as a decal. And I've spent just a bit of time cleaning this up. So let me open up a cleaned up image of it. And here I just removed this unique detail on the metal. So I'm gonna close the older image. So before we can use this as a decal texture, we need to process this image. We need to create a mask for opacity. We need to create a roughness map and a normal map. Now this is not how to create textures tutorial. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time creating a quality normal map, roughness map, or the base color map. But we'll go through it so it's good enough for us to use in this tutorial. So first, let's go ahead and create a mask to be used for opacity. I'm going to create a new layer, fill that layer with white. I'm going to convert background layer to a regular layer by double clicking on it and move the white solid color layer underneath it. This is just so we have a solid color behind our texture. So when I begin to erase this unwanted area, we see white behind it instead of the checkered material. Now I'm going to go ahead and save this image as a PSD file. Go to File, Save As, and let's go outside this folder. I have a PSD folder, and we're going to save this as sewer decal. I am creating this PSD file, so I have this texture and all of the work that I'm going to do for it in one single file. So if I need to change or revert something back or update this texture, I'll have it saved in the PSD file. So to create an opacity mask, I'm going to start by removing this unwanted area around the sewer decal. So all we have left is just this main area right here. So for this, I'm going to use marquee selection tool and just select the general area that I want to keep. And then I'm going to apply a layer mask by coming into the layer palette and clicking on this icon, add layer mask. This will allow me to erase what I don't want while keeping all the information of the texture and not removing it. So this is a non-destructive way for you to erase certain parts of the image while still keeping it if you need to put that information back in. And then once we're done working this selection, then from it we can create a layer mask to apply to an alpha channel. So we're going to select this layer mask, and this is very important. You have to make sure that your selection is on the layer mask itself and not on the image. And then we're going to use the brush tool right here. And if you paint white, this will put the image back in or erase the layer mask. And if you paint in black, this will remove or apply the layer mask. With the layer mask selected, I go in and use the black of the paintbrush to paint out the surrounding edges of the texture, and then just go around the entire image and remove that unwanted detail from the decal. And now we have a layer mask that can be used as an alpha opacity mask. So if you hold down Control and left click on the layer mask itself, this will make a selection around our decal, and with this selection we'll use to create an alpha opacity mask. But before we do that, let's go ahead and press Ctrl D to deselect and resize this image to what we're going to use inside the Unreal Engine. I'm going to use the crop tool, and to change things up, let's go ahead and use a rectangular texture. So I'm going to set the width to 512, height to 128. Actually, let's do 256. And left click to drag to include the entire image. Let's move this up and press enter. And now let's fill the background color with the closest pixel color around the edges, so we don't have any opacity mask bleed through. I'm going to use the color picker and choose somewhere right in there a dark gray. And let's go ahead and press Alt backspace to use the foreground color to fill the canvas. And I can see that we may need to go in and fix these issues here. You can see little white pixels around it, but we're not gonna do this in this tutorial. Let's keep moving and create this decal. So with the image set to 512 by 256 and the background color filled, let's go ahead and create our alpha opacity mask. Press Ctrl, left click to make a selection of your layer mask around the decal itself. Let's jump over to channels, create a new channel, which is going to be our alpha, and let's fill it with the background color, which is white. Shortcut key is Ctrl backspace. This fills the selection with the background color set. Ctrl D to deselect, and here's our alpha opacity mask. Left click to switch to RGB. Let's go back to layers and let's go to file, save as, and let's go outside this folder. Inside textures, we're going to save this as TGA. This is what's going to be imported into Unreal Engine 4. And we're going to name this sewer_decal. Click save and select 32-bit to include the alpha channel. In Unreal Engine, let's go ahead and import that texture and create a material. I'm going to select the texture folder, hit import, select sewer decal and import it. Now let's go to materials and create a new material. I will name this mat_decal sewer and press enter. Let's open up the material editor and let's select our sewer decal texture. Hold T on the keyboard, left click. We're going to plug this right into base color and take the alpha and plug it into opacity. Before we do that, let's go ahead and select our material expression. Change material domain to defer decal. Blend mode, we're going to change this to debuffer translucent, color, normal, and roughness. By the end of this video, we will create a roughness map and a normal map. But right now, let's take our alpha and plug it into opacity. Now let's apply and place our decal into the level. Let's go ahead, rotate it and project it on the wall. Let's rotate, and due to rectangular dimensions of the texture, we need to scale this down to make it fit to have proper scale for the decal. With the texture imported and material created, let's save all. Now this doesn't look like a sewer grate, so we need to create a normal map and a roughness map. Before I do that, I'm going to take this decal, I'm going to duplicate it on the floor. That way we can see the reflection and the roughness map a lot better when we do create a roughness map for it. Let's create a normal map for our decal. I'm going to create a new layer with this image on it. So I'm going to press Ctrl A to select all, Ctrl Shift C to copy, and then Ctrl V to paste. This gives me a solid image to use for the normal map. To create the normal map, we're going to use the same Photoshop filter as before. The most common way I see people use the Photoshop filter to create their normal maps is they take their diffuse or color-based image, they desaturate it, and then they run the filter on it. And this produces okay results. This gives you good detail for your normal, but it does not give you a good base or a good depth for your normal map. There's just too much noise and it does not produce the best results. So I would use this as a detailed normal map to overlay on a better depth base normal map, but I would not run a Photoshop filter on a diffuse image as is and then use that as a normal map. So to create a cleaner and a better base normal map, we're going to create a height map first. This is going to be a black and white image, and then we'll run a Photoshop filter on it. When you create a height map that's going to be converted to a normal map, white is going to be up position when it's converted to a normal map, and blacks are going to be down when it's converted to a normal map. So let's go ahead and start over. Let's go ahead and delete this layer. I'm going to press Ctrl A to select all, Ctrl Shift C to copy everything visible, and press Ctrl V to paste it. Now we have this layer that we're going to use just for the normal map. Then I need to desaturate this image. You can press Ctrl Shift U to desaturate, go to Image, Adjustments, and Desaturate. And I'm going to press Ctrl L for levels and just push these values really high. So all we have are blacks and whites. So this gives me a good starting point. So instead of going and using the marquee tool to select it all and fill it with white and black, I have a good starting point. And now I just need to clean this up, so all I have the black for the indents and the whites for the elevation of the normal map. To do this quick, so I don't spend a lot of time here, I made the selection from the layer mask, and on the new layer I filled it with white. And then I used the marquee selection and individually created a marquee around the black indents and then filled them with black. So in the end, I end up with a clean black and white image to use for a normal map. Here we are. Let's go ahead and convert this to a normal map. I'm going to take these 3 layers and merge them down. So we have a single height map layer. So I'm going to just press Ctrl E to merge down. Once, twice. So this is what we have. This is our height map. I'm going to take this layer, duplicate it, so we retain and keep our height map. And on this new duplicated layer, let's go run our normal map filter. NVIDIA Tools, normal map filter, height generation 3x3. We're going to invert the green channel, so make sure to enable invert Y, scale set to 5, height source average RGB, and alpha field set to 1.0. Click OK. And now we have a clean base normal map. So let's go ahead, export this as a normal map, save as. Let's go into the textures folder, save it as Targa, and sewer underscore decal underscore n for normal map. And we want to save it as 24-bit because we do not need an alpha channel on our normal map. Let's import our normal map and use it in our decal material. I'm going to select the texture folder, select import, and select sewer decal normal map. I'm going to select it in the content browser, jump over to material editor, hold T, left click to place the texture sample, and just connect the RGB to the normal map. Let's hit apply, and here we are. Looks a lot better. This gives it some depth, especially for the indents. But to make this decal stand out even more, we need a roughness map, because right now we have some shiny light reflection coming off from the indents, and they should be completely black, and they should not give off any light bouncing back from this decal. So let's go ahead and create a roughness map. So before we jump into Photoshop and create our custom roughness map, let me show you an example what it looks like inside the material editor. A roughness map controls how shiny or how rough the material is. So I'm going to take and plug in a 1 constant into roughness input. So I'm going to hold down 1 key, left click, and take this value right into roughness. And a value of 0 will be very shiny and very reflective. And a value of 1 is going to be very rough and no reflections. So this material is not shiny at all. So to do this in Photoshop, a value of 1 is going to be white color, and a value of 0, or very shiny, is going to be color black. To create a roughness map in Photoshop, let's go ahead and do that now. I'm going to make the diffuse texture or the base color image shown. So I'm going to hide the normal map and the height map layer. Then I'm going to press Ctrl A, Ctrl Shift C to copy visible, and then Ctrl V to paste that image. Now let's go ahead and desaturate this image. Ctrl Shift U to desaturate. And let's adjust levels. Ctrl L. So the white is going to be very rough and non-reflective, and the blacks are going to be very reflective. So actually what we need to do is invert this image. Hit cancel, press Ctrl I to invert. Let's go ahead, Ctrl L to adjust levels again. I'm going to push this all the way out. So the white for the indents is going to be very rough and non-reflective, and the blacks are going to be reflective. Now I don't want this to be too shiny, so I'm going to give kind of middle value range of some gray, but more towards kind of the white, like so. Let's click OK, and let's save this image as a roughness map. Go to File, Save As, save it as a Targa file, Textures, and this is going to be sewer underscore decal underscore R for roughness. Save, 24 bits. We do not need an alpha channel for our roughness map. And let's import this into Unreal. Back in Unreal, let's select texture folder, import the roughness map, select it, jump over to material editor. Let's delete this constant 1 vector and hold T, left click, to place the texture sample. I'm gonna create a little bit more space. I'm gonna take this roughness map, RGB, right into roughness. Let's take a look, and let's go ahead, apply, and take a look at it in the level. And that looks pretty good. There might be a little bit too much of the shininess coming through, so we can go ahead and control it inside the material editor. You could go back to Photoshop and adjust the levels again, but we can use a simple node structure to control of how shiny and rough it is. So let's create a little bit of space. I'm going to hold 1 key and left click to place 1 constant vector, and then I'm going to hold down the M key on the keyboard and left click. This will give me a multiply node. So I'm going to multiply the texture sample, the roughness map, and the 1 constant vector will control the intensity of that multiplication. So this will control how rough or how shiny the roughness map will be. So I'm going to take the RGB, plug it into multiply A, and take 1 constant vector into B, and take multiply into roughness. So right now it's extremely shiny. Select the constant 1 vector, and in the details panel, change the value from 0 to 1. And if we increase this value, let's say to 2, this will make it less shiny and more rough. So increasing this value will remove how shiny and increase the roughness. Now let's go ahead, bring it down to 2. Click apply, let's take a look at it in the level. And that's a little bit better. Now let's go to save all so we don't lose any of the work. And now we are done with the sewer decal. We covered a lot of topics in this video. We created a masked decal, created a custom normal map using a height map, and then we created a roughness map. And bringing all those 3 elements together, we created a very believable sewer grade decal. In the next video, we'll cover how to create stains, leaks, dirt, and grime. And we'll go through a few more techniques that will help you to create a variety of decals.